about that.
Grab a chair.
You took your chair?
Well, that's Harry.
Welcome, everybody. This is the School District of Prescott Board of Education regular meeting. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public. There is a portion of this meeting that is recognition of visitors. There's a it's a large group, so we're just going to go over this. In the beginning of the packet, it gives
Do the pledge first.
Yeah, we'll do the pledge. I want to go over this first. There's some rules of how we conduct business at that point. I'm going to ask that we try to keep it to 3 minutes. I believe that's in there in your meetings. And if you could refrain from making multiple visits until everyone else has a chance to talk, would be helpful and fair. And we're going to move forward. We apologize for being late. Again, we've been in executive session since 6:45. We are now on item E, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you join us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Again, thanks, everybody. Item F, recognition of visitors. Would anyone care to be recognized at this time?
No, but no takers.
We're on.
You can be our first person. Thank you so much. Hi, my name is Kristen Gray. That's very loud. My husband and I live in Prescott. We have 2 boys at Malone. And first off, I would like to thank the school board for giving some of us community members the opportunity to be part of the selection process for our upcoming high school principal. I truly do appreciate that opportunity. The second thing is, you may have noticed that I passed around a dish of candy with a sign on it that says, please pick one. The reason I passed that around is last night I was sitting with my boys after supper and they get to pick a piece of candy, and I said to John and Henry, go ahead, pick one. I saw that, Mike Matzik. Sorry. I said, go ahead, pick one. And I'm watching my boys, and literally my one boy picked a Reese's because we both love peanut butter. My other boy picked Whoppers. Out of everything that's in that dish, he picked Whoppers. And I looked at him and I said, John Gray, what are you picking Whoppers for? He goes, Ma, I like Whoppers and I get to pick what I want. You know what? I truly think that was God telling me that in this world, we get to pick. in many situations. And to me, that's a blessing. And so as much as there may be controversy, yep, please pass those around, they're for the audience too. As much as there can be controversy, the fact of the matter is we get to pick, and we ought to consider that a blessing. We truly should. So for those who are so inclined, because I'm probably getting close to my 3 minutes, as Mark said, please bow your head with me to pray. Dear Lord, thank you for the blessings of free speech and the ability to choose things for ourselves. Please bless this meeting and grant all here tonight the ability to show respect for differences of opinion. Please provide wisdom and strength for those in leadership positions and for our community. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Next. If you prefer to line up, that's fine. We keep moving, that's fine.
Hello, I'm Marcia Linseth of Prescott, and I'm sorry I didn't bring even better candy. That was good, Kristen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening, and thank you very much, like Kristen said, for the opportunity to serve on the Community Advisory Committee to interview the final school principal candidates for the high school and make recommendations to the board. It was a privilege to serve with 4 other respected and talented community members and 2 Prescott principals, all of whom took this responsibility very seriously. Thanks for asking for the input of community members in the process of choosing a new high school principal, which, as you know, is a very important hire for any school district. As most of you know, I've had the privilege of serving as an administrator in this school district for 17 years, 10 as the Malone School Principal and 7 as the district's curriculum director. In addition, I served as a principal in the Stillwater School District for 6 years. Since retiring from these positions, I've had a very keen interest in schools, and I've maintained that interest, especially in school leaders and the leadership attributes that they should possess in order to achieve academic excellence in their schools. I'm not here speaking tonight to tell you which candidate that you should choose for this position. That's your responsibility. And I felt that all 3 of the candidates that we interviewed had many fine qualities. But I would like to ask you to consider some of the qualities that recent educational literature and research has shown to be important in a new principal, and base your decisions upon these qualities, or at least have them in mind when you're making your decision. Many of these ideas come from the most recent journal, Phi Delta Kappan. And they are: to lead learning, the principal must become the leading learner and must focus attention on what students are actually doing when they're in a classroom. The focus is on watching students learn rather than just watching what teachers teach. The principal should be able to conduct formative assessments that provide a way for the principal to know more about what's occurring in each classroom so that he or she is able to have deep and rich conversations with teachers about their practices, with the express goal of improving student achievement and, of course, the ultimate goal of the advancement of learning. Secondly, principals must know how to hire the very best teachers they can find, support them in every way possible, help them grow, evaluate them fairly, set and exemplify high expectations for everyone, and create and insist on a climate and culture where students feel safe, known, and challenged. In other words, a principal and a school must aim to work relentlessly and creatively toward the single aim of creating and nourishing the best possible environment for teaching and learning. The principalship requires adaptability. Successful principals are those who can comfortably adjust when necessary. Today's principal must do more than put out fires. He or she must also anticipate and lead change under the heavy mantle of the shifting leadership roles placed upon him or her by the staff, community, and society. The responsibility for a school success or failure is often now attributed to the principal at its helm. Effective principals today know how to draw upon the best skills and assets of an entire school leadership team. They cannot be micromanagers and expect great results. Learning should be at the center of a school leader's job, with good principals shaping the course of the school from inside the classroom and outside the office. School leadership matters to student achievement. Principals need to know how to shape a vision of success for all students, create a climate hospitable to education, cultivate leadership in others, know how to improve instruction, and how to manage people, data, and processes to foster that important school improvement. And finally, a principal has to understand that success is not measured by the ability to meet everyone's expectations. Principals serve simultaneously many constituencies: students, parents, teachers, the community, and the central office. Each has its own needs and expectations, and they often collide. Trying to meet everyone's expectations is a fool's errand, and it takes a great deal of fortitude not to forget it. Paradoxically and thankfully, one often meets the most valuable and important expectations by not trying to meet them all. Again, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight and to be of continued service in this school district. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcia.
Can I ask who else needed
I'm Pastor Amy Fondroy Ike from Joy Lutheran Church, and I wanted to come to say thank you and also to make the community aware of how unique this community is. A few weeks ago, Mike McGowan, a speaker who has traveled hundreds of schools, came to this school district, spoke at the high school, spoke with top leaders from the sophomore and junior class, who I had the privilege of hearing their conversation, spoke in the elementary school. Thank you to Mr. Halverson, who made that happen within a day, and also spoke in the middle school, and the St. Joe's students in the 6th grade joined them, and in the evening there was an opportunity for parents and families to attend. He said in his time of speaking in communities, this is the only community where he saw school, a community, the Prescott Foundation helped to fund this, and churches come together. And I think that's amazing and needs to be recognized. There's planning already happening because parents said how positive the event was, and I heard kids repeat to me what I heard him say during the day. I don't know about you as parents, but usually my kids can't even tell me what they had for lunch at school. So he made an impression. So I want to thank the school for working so hard on that, especially Matt Smith and Kristen Langer. And we'll be putting a date on the calendar for next year. I also want to thank you for being willing, especially Mr. Bunn came over a couple years ago and said, could we house the alternative high school at Joy Lutheran Church in an effort to continue to have that program work at the school district and continue. And at the same time, continue conversations about the early childhood program growing and needing more permanent space. So we became in a working agreement together. When that conversation started, one of the students said, I don't know if I can go to that church. I might burn. And he was joking, but I think he was also trying to reflect what he really felt inside about feeling left out and not worthy. So when we greet them in the morning and say, goodbye, have a good day, or ask, hey, would you mind scooping, and then offer them a cup of hot chocolate, and they say, I don't remember the last time I've had hot chocolate, they have an opportunity to be treated with respect. And so I thank the school district for having those programs. The first year that the alternative high school was at Joy, I said, what can we do for those students? Is there something we could do? And the teacher at that time said, well, I've been thinking about doing a high school graduation party, but I don't know if any of them will show up. I said, I don't care if they show up. If they don't, we'll eat lots of cake. I care that they know somebody cares about the fact that they graduated. So they came, and I want to thank the teachers who have taken time to come, Mr. Peterson, who's taken time to come, and Mr. Bunn. And for you to sit and watch those who've had to come down on those students joke about, oh, you know, how come we spend so much time in my office together? I think there was really some healing that happened in that conversation. Last year, I invited other community organizations to be part of this. Kiwanis, Joy Women of the ELCA, and the Knights of Columbus helped to fund it. This year, the CARES group is helping to take care of just a little bit of food and gift cards to Patax. Now, I don't know about you, but when I've graduated, any time I've graduated, I've never gotten really excited about a gift card to a grocery store. But those who didn't complete their assignments by the time the graduation party had to come back to get that, and it was so cool to see them in the hallway of the church saying, I picked up my diploma today, and I'd say, great, I'm glad you told me that. Is there any other reason why you came? And others coming back and talking about their plans for college. Many of these students sleep on the couches of friends or live on their own. And so I want to thank you for working together. Christ proclaimed in Matthew 25, and the King will say, truly I tell you, just as you did it to the least of these, you did it to me. So thank you for those who help with the least of these in both the early childhood program and the alternative high school. Last summer when a student was lost, I saw those teachers, the aides, and many from all of the school districts out trying to help that student who had become a good friend of my son as they were together in that program. So thank you for working together, and I think the conversation of working together as a community is one to build on. And I actually had a chance to sit and hear your conversation about how to do a community-wide, a very thorough interview process. And I think many people would have been excited to hear how you were planning to have the future principals see the community, meet a variety of people, and go through a large interview process to truly understand what the gifts are and the challenges of this community. So thank you.
Thank you.
By the way, the alternative high school graduation party is on Thursday, May 23rd. If there's any way you'd like to support those kids, please let me know.
Mic's open. Keep moving. Really? That's okay. Still open. Okay. One last shot. We can move. Thank you very much. Item G, minutes of our previous meeting. Mike, any additions or corrections?
No.
April?
Good.
Dan?
No comments, I wasn't here.
Tom?
No, I'm good with them.
We will need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item H, good news. The principals and Director of Pupil Services come to the microphone. Did you have good news?
Good evening, By Prescott Middle School. Monday, we had a great band concert, they tell me. I was at the banquet, but I had several parents stop and tell me it was a great concert, so I'm believing them. I know she always does a great job, and really proud of her band and her choirs down there. May 8th, today, Doc comes in and says, "Nolt, smells like the barn in this office at the high school." I says, "That's me." He goes, "What?" I says, "Yeah, my 8th graders went out and cleaned up 6 of the elderly's homes today, plus the schoolyard, and I packed them up, and I had a few boys, thanks to Cameron McKenzie, Timmy Chambers. They loaded the truck up several times, took it out to the site out here and found it, and we dumped it. So if it's in your yard, I'm sorry, it was the wrong site. I got the right site, trust me. May 9th, staff will be cleaning Highway 10. Do not run us over. May 10th, we have a spring training cookout. Radel, Dugstead, and Lubbock's first time ever. I don't have that many male teachers. Their TAs won the reading contest, so it's called spring training. So I'll be cooking hot dogs, we have malt cups, we have chips to those 3 TAs, and they get off the last 2 hours on Friday to do that deal and have a great time. May 16th, 8th grade's going to Madison without me. That's okay, I'm getting old. Long ride. Better yet, as well as I have a group of kids going to the FCE group of kids called Whipping Up Wellness Competition, entered their baked Italian pasta recipe, and were chosen to compete as one of the top 5 schools in Wisconsin down in Madison. So they're going to be down at Babcock Hall in the University of Wisconsin next Thursday, cooking up a storm. I have not test piloted this thing. I thought I was a good candidate, but they cut me out of it. That's the way it is. My members are Kaylin Lewis, Mackenzie Hooper, Jillian Bowles, and Catherine Fraser, and Angela Bowles, our FCA teacher. We'll be taking them down along with Kathy Harold. Great honor there. The 20th, we was going to be the 15th, but I'm not going to mention Cottage Grove Middle School backed off 5 days. They must not have been prepared to take us on. We have Cottage Grove coming in for Battle of the Books. This is for all the marbles, folks, I'm telling you. There's a kid up there, they got some new business teacher, and he's trying to teach them how to beat us. If he does, he will be homeless. Yes, it's my youngest one. Training against me. He will be homeless. His cousin, he'll be living there full-time in Cottage Grove. On the 21st, Tim Scott coming down, Holocaust speaker. If anybody gets a chance to come down and see this guy, Roger will tell you he's a great time. He really does a great job educating our 8th graders. And on the Holocaust as well as bullying and treating people appropriately. June 4th, we'll have our last cookout for our accelerated math program, accelerated reading. I'll be cooking burgers for right around 130 to 140 kids, so basically half the school qualifies. So it's busy this month, and that's not everything.
Thank you.
What do you guys think?
Mark Inouye, Director of People Services. I probably won't talk quite as long as Lyle. I'm really excited. Over the past couple years, we really have been focusing a lot on inclusion and team teaching with students with disabilities. July 30th and 31st, I'm leading a group of teachers who are volunteering their time to go down to Wausau for an inclusion conference. So we're going to spend a couple days there learning about inclusion, best practices in team teaching, and I'm really excited about how this is going to impact our ability to close the achievement gap and really expose some of these students to the Common Core. So real excited about that opportunity and something that we'll be doing over the summer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dave Bunn, high school principal. First off, I want to thank Mr. Knoll for talking longer than the entire public recognition section, so thank you. Next on the agenda, I would like to congratulate a couple different people that are actually here tonight. Mr. Canfield, he had some students that went to state competition, so the jazz band, jazz combo, horn duet, piano solo, and flute soloist, they all earned the highest honors that they could, so congratulations, Mr. Canfield. And Ms. Sponholt, don't hide back there. All right. Our forensics team is outstanding, and they participated at the state tournament, had 7 golds, 11 silvers, and 4 bronzes. And so they do an outstanding job, so congratulations. And I would like to talk more about athletics and such, but it's been kind of really struggle this spring, so maybe at the end we'll share a little bit more. So,
Dave, is this your last one of these, or are you going to be around for the next board meeting?
I'm not telling.
So we'll see you next time then.
Probably.
One more. Squeeze one more out of him.
Scott Halverson, elementary principal. You're going to be hearing from me later on, excuse me, academic initiatives, so I'll keep this brief. We have a national current events competition which our students are involved in, and we had a student, a young Walker Lenz, who placed first in the national student competition overall. Quite impressive feat. He was first in the country that took this test. So we're awfully proud of Walker Lenz. At the same time, so we kind of honored him a week ago. At the same time, we had Fox 9, and they had a top teacher. They honor about 10 teachers in the Twin City metro area, and they expand out as far as their TVs go anyway. And they honored Greg Len as a top teacher. And so this was last week. And so as they honored Greg Len, they also honored Walker Lenz. A surprise totally for both of them. It was well done. So we'll talk later on academics. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That is it for good news. We'll move to the business section of our meeting. First one, item 1, organizational activities. Item A, elect board officers. We start with chairman. Any nominations?
Nominate Mark Helmer.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations?
No.
Okay. We'll need a motion.
I'm sorry. I thought that was a motion.
That was a motion.
Okay.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. We do this once a year. I'm a little rusty, sorry. Vice chairman. Any nominations?
I'll nominate Tom Magnan.
Do you have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Clerk. Any nominations?
I'll nominate Mike Matzik.
I'll second that.
I forgot to ask last time. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? We have a motion second. All in favor?
Aye. You like that job, right?
Opposed? That carries. Treasurer. Nominations.
Who's the current treasurer?
Could have been the treasurer.
Who's current?
Dan's treasurer.
Dan was the current treasurer.
I'll nominate Dan Smeda as the treasurer.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. All right. Item B, selection of depository for investment of funds.
Yes, we have a motion each year to deposit our funds, and it's recommended we continue with the First National Bank of River Falls, Prescott, and Wisconsin State Investment Pool as the official school depositories. And each has the ability to secure our investments, our money as it comes in and goes out, so they've done a nice job for us in the past.
Dan, you're the treasurer. Do you want to have the first comments on this?
We've had no issues with capabilities or their ability to execute, right?
Correct.
Okay, so no questions there.
Tom?
No.
Mike? No. April?
Nope.
We'll need a motion.
I'll move that we approve First National Bank of River Falls, Prescott, and the Wisconsin State Investment Pools, the official school depositories.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next item is set the date and time of the school board meetings. Roger.
Well, last time we changed the January date to not conflict with the school board's conference, but this year the school board conference is the fourth Wednesday, so we can continue to meet the third Wednesday of each month. At this point, I mean, we see conflicts in the future, but it's now that seems to work, if it works for you.
Fine.
Mike?
Yep.
April?
Yep.
Dan?
Fine.
Tom?
Yeah, I think we stay the same.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make the motion that we designate the third Wednesday of each month at 7:30 in the high school library as our official date for school board meetings.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item D, designate an official newspaper.
Well, I think we should designate the Prescott Journal since they cover our meetings, so thank you, Louis, for doing a nice job with our school, so on, and it is our community newspaper, so I recommend the Prescott Journal. Tom?
I'm fine with that, yeah. Appreciate the fact that they do show up for all of our meetings.
Dan?
Yep, thank you.
Mike?
I think the Prescott Journal does an excellent job, by the way. I want to say that publicly. I absolutely want to support this.
April?
Sounds good.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion to designate the Prescott Journal as the official school district newspaper.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Minutes publication. Roger.
Yeah, it's recommended, we've done it in the past, Don has done a really nice job with this to get the minutes out as soon as we can so people know what's going on, so recommend we publish unapproved minutes in our official newspaper as soon as they're available, following each regular meeting, so we get news out there, and if need be, we can adjust those if we need to, but so far Don has done a super job with that, and it's important for the public to see what's going on in a timely manner.
All right. April?
Sounds good.
Mike?
Yeah, we started doing this like 2 years ago, or it hasn't been that long, has it?
It's been doing that before I got here.
It really has been?
You're right.
Mark probably knows
But
that.
were they published?
They're published, they published unapproved.
Okay.
Otherwise, it'd be a month late because you'd have to approve them.
Okay. I always thought they're in the paper the next week, all right?
So basically, we were saying we trust Donna Watterson to get it right.
Absolutely.
To get it right.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Dan?
Well, now that you put it that way, okay, fine with me.
Thank you, Dan. Tom?
I'm good with it as well.
Yeah.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we continue to publish the unapproved minutes in the official newspaper as soon as available following each regular meeting.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item 2, personnel. D, resignations. Roger.
Yes, we have one resignation. It wasn't unexpected, but it's not pleased about it. Jennifer Bond resigned as an English language learner, and it's kind of, she does the job as she needs to. Sometimes she's busy, sometimes nothing happens for a while, but she does a super job coordinating our English language learner program. We're going to miss her, but recommend you accept her resignation.
Mike?
No, she'll be missed.
April?
I hear long-distance relationships are really great. Saying. But I'm going to guess that's not going to be the plan, so good luck.
Dan?
No comments. Thank you, except thank you, Jennifer.
Tom?
Likewise, thanks, and good luck in the new digs.
Yes, good luck, and we'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resignation from Jennifer Bunn, our English learner coordinator.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item E, employment. Roger.
We approved a math teacher to keep up with the math requirements and curriculums, and recommend you hire Jennifer Cadlick as a math teacher. She's got a degree from Minona State and 3 years teaching experience, and we're stealing her from Ellsworth, but it works for her because she lives in Prescott, so we're happy to steal her. She did an excellent job interviewing and had great references on Jennifer, so you should have a separate motion on Jennifer.
Okay. Dan, comments?
No, I hear she's pretty good.
All right. Tom?
I'm good, too.
Mike?
We've confirmed that she's a Cardinal, right? She's not a Panther?
She's a Cardinal. Kids are going to come to school here
All
someday.
right, as long as she's not a Panther fan.
April?
No objection.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make the motion that we hire Miss Cadillac as our math teacher, high school math teacher.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Next item. Roger?
Yes, the next item is the high school principal. And I said in the notes we were looking at closer to finalists, and we did. We did a site visits with the 2 finalists. Went through, I believe, in my opinion, a very thorough process, more than we have before, with the process of going through and phone interviews and preliminary interviews and visits to our school district and final interviews with a larger group of people. We had some excellent candidates. There are some great people out there that have some skills that are going to be excellent principals. But my recommendation is one of those people who's going to do an excellent job. And this person has proven themselves many times over. He's a positive leader, not only for Prescott, but at the state and regional level. He's highly student-centered. His work ethic's unparalleled. Excellent knowledge of our staff and programs, and will lead them in a positive direction. He's a great listener, not afraid to make decisions. He knows where we're headed with the RTI and curriculum. He's respected, team-oriented. He's been with us for 28 years in a variety of capacities, and he's willing to make difficult decisions. I recommend Dave Wortham as high school principal.
Good. Tom?
Before I share my aye or nay, I just want to say it's been encouraging to see how much people in the community care about a decision like this. It's certainly been the most widely discussed and advocated for spot that we've had, and without a doubt, everybody who has come forward with an opinion has spoken with the intent of only making Prescott better. And I admire that in everybody, regardless of what side or what candidate they were favoring. I intended going into it of supporting whatever recommendation Roger made. And the reason why I say that is because I felt both candidates that were finalists were excellent and capable of leading our district, leading the staff at the high school, and serving our students in a positive way to prepare them for the next level, going on to college or whatever it might be. I support Roger's recommendation, and I support Dave Wortham's on the point that I've seen all 7 of my children go through this district. All of them left well prepared for the next level of their lives. And I know Dave has been a part of that. And I say that not just in reflecting on Dave, but upon all the staff at the high school. I think we have a great high school core of teachers and people there that care and work very hard at preparing all of our students to move on to adulthood and to serve in the communities that we all live in. And I am willing to support Roger's recommendation, and I hope that this debate continues to engage people positively and does not result in people turning away from the continued positive support that we need for all of our kids' sake, for our entire community's sake, to be not only a school of choice, but a community of choice. Coming together, regardless of what side you're on, I think is an important lesson that we can teach our kids, more than how to perform math functions or anything else. Learning how to deal with what might be a disappointment is by far one of the greatest lessons we can teach our students, and wherever you sit on this decision, I hope you look at the future with that in mind. So thanks for all who participated and shared their thoughts about this.
Thank you, Tom. Dan?
Obviously, a key decision for the district. It's an important part of the community. It's central to our success, and we're at a time of change, and a lot of it, and complicated change. We've got to make response to intervention work. We've got to, as Marcia said, innovate educationally, anticipate, and change effectively. And that requires, if you look at the literature, just a heavy dose of instructional effectiveness and expertise, the ability to really manage curriculum and differentiated instruction and communities of practice, PLCs. And so the job of principal in many ways has always been the same. It's to make a school come together and a cohesive unit that contributes to learning and turns out positive kids that are ready for the next level. The job is so complicated now, though, in terms of the requirements on us, the legal compliance involved with Title I and IEPs, and just staying on the right side of the law. There's such complexity in this job now that you've seen, and you've all seen it with your taxes, a proliferation of spending in order to make that work. We have far more staff than we've ever had. We have a director of curriculum because we need somebody like Cheryl full-time to keep on top of this. And it's such that it's a more complicated and a more technical job than it ever has been, even as that core of relationship building and community building stays the same. So you look at the requirements of the job and you say, we need those things. We need them now because the kids that are in high school and that are going into high school don't have time to wait. So as someone that's responsible, and we're all responsible for a good hiring decision, you look at what are the needs of the kids now, and do we have candidates that will fit those needs? And that's why I'm disappointed that we don't have experienced candidates to choose from here. And that's why I'm disappointed that our recommended candidate does not have principal experience. I think the district and we have failed as an organization to, if we've conducted our process that failed to bring qualified, experienced candidates that we thought we could choose. I mean, we had all inexperienced candidates in that final stage to choose from. And when experienced candidates are available and interested, I should say, I think what's really happened here is we've gotten to this recommendation is, we've somehow missed if we don't have an experienced candidate coming in and being considered. I've hired a lot of people in my jobs, and you start by calling the people that have done the job before. People that are experienced in interviewing and hiring say a demonstrated track record of achievement is the best indicator of future success, etc. And so, I am concerned with this decision, and I don't agree. However, and so I want to apologize, first of all, for a process that, didn't make that happen and didn't get us some experienced people to choose from. And I also want to apologize to Dave Vortherms because, in this process, I think unfortunately, you probably, you can't help but get painted with a brush as this all goes down. And I know there are people that wanted this, wanted that, and my regret in all that is that somehow Dave comes off looking as less than golden here because he's obviously the man, right? Dave, you're the man. We want you to stay, right? You are all the beautiful things that people said about you, and I respect and value that, right? And I want you to be a part of this district for as long as you want to be. And my personal belief and my conviction is that we also need an experienced candidate at the helm, an experienced principal who has done it before and who knows how to do the technical parts of the job, and who frankly needs a guy like Dave and his skill set to round it out, because it is such a technical and multifaceted job. And that is the reason I don't agree with the hire and that I'll vote against it. It's not personal. It's really about the business and about the best interests of kids and what they need right now.
Thank you, Dan. April?
When Marcia read that passage, I didn't picture V. but I have faith that, or trust in the superintendent, that when Marshall was reading that he did see V. I've known V for only a year. And I know Roger's known V for a lot longer. So I'm trusting my superintendent here. That's all.
Thank you, April. Mike?
Yeah. First, I do want to say thank you. I received a lot of phone calls and emails on this topic. It's a very, very important topic, and it's, as Tom eloquently pointed out, there's very passionate people. It's a huge decision. It's not an easy decision for us either. I also support the recommendation from our superintendent. I have faith in the system and faith in the process. I believe that we did have 2 good candidates at the end, actually 3 good candidates at the end, and I think all of them are qualified to run a building. I truly believe that. What I like about Dave Vorthrum's is I have a great deal of respect for him, and he has a great deal of respect for the people, or people have a great deal of respect for him in this community. He's well known in this community, and Dan, you pointed it out too. He's here. People know him. I think that he's been here. He's been here for 28 years, and he's never failed at anything he's ever done. He's been an athletic director for a number of years now, and ask around. I've been to many schools at contests officiating basketball games. Athletic directors around the area say Dave Vorthrum is one of the best athletic directors in the state of Wisconsin. I've heard that. So Dave, in my opinion, does not know how to fail. I think this is a new opportunity for him. And I believe he's earned that opportunity as well. I think he's been here many years, as I said. And one of the things I do also want to point out, I'm kind of struggling here because this is hard for me to talk about, but one of the philosophies I've had, and there's 2 ways to do it, Dan. You've mentioned looking external. My approach going into my job every day is when we hire people, we look internal first. I think if you have a qualified candidate inside your own building, you should look there first. If you don't have a qualified candidate, yes, absolutely, you look external and you go outside. But I think you send a message to your organization if you have a qualified candidate that you are rewarding and you're promoting to a new position. Dave will have a new set of requirements. He's going to have to figure it out to let go of a lot of his old responsibilities. He's not an athletic director anymore if this goes through. He's going to be a principal. It's a whole different set of requirements, and he's going to have to learn, and he's got amazingly clear set of requirements based on what we've heard from the feedback and what we're hearing. Dave's going to have his plate full, but I have all the faith in the world because this guy does not know how to fail, and I support this recommendation 100%.
Thank you, Mike. This process has been engaging. There's a lot of people involved. And I'm thankful for that process because it did bring to light a lot of what parents in the community have their minds on. Brings it to the forefront, sets our guidelines. We have some targets. We need to get it happen. We need to make that happen. That's not a bad thing. I'm confident that everybody sitting at this table, as long as they've served for the school district, has the same goal in mind: what's best for the students and the school. And that's why we make these decisions, and they're hard decisions. And I wish I could say it as well as Tom did, but I'm not going to be able to, so I'm going to let him have it. This is a big decision. I'm very confident with Roger's ability to hire administrators. He's done it before. He's gone through the process. He knows how to get through it. And absolutely agree with some of the things that Dan said. You know, demonstration of past success is a good indicator of future success. And for me, Dave Vorthums has done that. Everything that we put in front of him, he's been able to accomplish. Now, if he fails, we'll be sitting back at this table with a very difficult decision to non-renew him. And I'm fully capable of doing that. I'm confident that if that has to happen, it will happen. And I hope that people in the community have the faith in this school board and the administration that if this has to happen, it will. Just like I have faith that he can do the job, we're going to make that decision. So I support Roger's decision, and I respect Dan's input, and we move forward positively. So, is there any other discussion? I'll ask for a motion.
Can I just add that?
Absolutely.
You mentioned that we'll be back here in a year if he doesn't perform well. I don't want that to happen. I think we need to do whatever we can to make sure that he is successful in his role. If that means we set him up with a mentor. There's just some things that a go-getter attitude can't learn by themselves. So we need to do our job to make sure that he can get that.
Exactly.
Absolutely agree.
You're right, we need a development plan, right? We need something with milestones and, and outcomes attached to it so we can make sure we're on track, right? Onboarding here,
Absolutely.
actually developing the muscles, if that's the way it's going to go down. And we all know it is, so let's go to it.
All right. We need a motion.
I will make the motion to hire Dave Worthrams as the high school principal.
I'll second it.
Is there any other discussion?
Can I call for like a roll call vote on that?
Please do. I was going to.
I call
Yes.
for a roll call vote on that.
Thank you, Dan. And we will roll call vote this. Tom?
Aye.
Dan?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
April?
Aye.
And I vote yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move to item 3. Consider policy 421, attendance truancy.
We've looked at this a number of times. I know the principals helped put this together. No changes since the first reading. Be more clear about makeup work and time to do that in, and notification of absences. I think the changes that are made here make it more clear with attendance and makeup work and so on. So I'll pass it back to Mark and if there's any comments or questions.
Dan, any changes, comments, questions on this item?
No, it hasn't changed since last time. It looked fine then, so no comments.
Tom?
I concur with Dan. I don't see any reason to further discuss it, same as we saw previous.
Okay. Mike?
Stay in school.
Stay in school. April?
Sounds good.
We'll need a motion.
I'll move to adopt policy 421, attendance truancy, dated 5/8/13.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item 4, consider lighted up campaigns request for advertising.
Well, we've got Dave French has done a super job trying to put things together and get things going. He's a catalyst in our community for lights for the baseball field and has some ideas about lighting it up and advertising. So I asked him to come and present that to the board and get your input and approval or not, or questions.
I guess the lights must be pretty boring.
Your timing.
Sorry. All right. Well, Dallas has some display boards for you to take a look at, but he and I have been working on the Light It Up campaign in general, and part of that campaign is the advertising on the outfield fence and around the field. And are they all out here, Dallas? You guys have seen them all?
Yeah, we're passing them through now.
Okay. So basically where we're at is I've got a contract that I've sent to Roger that he's looked at, and we're looking at 32 square foot signage on the outfield fence in the foul area. So left field, out of bounds, foul territory, right field, foul territory. On the fence there is where we would do either the 4x4 or the 4x8 signage. And we've come up with a 3-year contract for the 32 square foot sign or the 4x8 for $1,500 for 3 years, and 4x4 it's $1,000.
Which page are you on, Dave?
I'm not
Page
sure.
7, maybe?
6 and 7 in the blue.
7, yeah.
So I don't really have anything beyond that other than it's going to generate, could generate quite a bit of revenue for the school in general at the field. We did a electrical cost quote, and it worked out to about $900 and some a year. $919 a year is the quote we got from Musco Lighting to actually operate the lights 3.5 hours a night for 40 games a week, or 40 games a summer. So I'm sweating my butt off here, sorry about that.
It's warm up here.
Love talking in front of people.
You're doing a good job.
It's warm.
Don't like a tomato yet? Or not? Yeah? Good.
So Dave, tell us about the financials, right? You have a contract here. Explain to people how the money flows, since this is a contract with the school district that you're asking sponsors to sign.
Okay, let me find it again here. Basically, we'll approach businesses and ask them to sign this contract. It'll be an account that's held by the school for the signage. The actual Light It Up campaign funds are going to be routed through the Prescott Foundation. So we originally were set up to go through the cab company, but the Prescott Foundation is a 501c3 organization, so there's tax incentive benefits for sponsors.
They're just going to pass that funding through.
Pass it through.
Right, as a nonprofit.
So for the fence advertisements, that'll actually be, any checks or anything will be written right to the school for that. And we'll look for a 3-year contract, and we're giving people the option to provide even disbursements over that 3-year period. So if they want to do $500 a year for 3 years, they can do that for their signage.
How long before the lights are paid off and we can start using that revenue for like books and things?
Well, this is where it's a little independent of the Light It Up campaign, in that I don't know where those funds are going to go. We're doing a separate campaign for Light It Up. So we're approaching sponsors and trying to get revenue generated just for the construction of the lights. So the advertising piece here is a separate piece. It's tied together, but we've got a separate fund for the Light It Up campaign funds that we generate.
So you're asking for campaign funds that are going into Fund B, and then we're asking for sponsorship at the field, which is going into the district's fund.
Yes. So
what are your projections around how long it will take to pay for lights? What's the payoff or the ROI on this one?
Well, we're looking to, the total project cost is about $150,000 to $155,000. We're just waiting on.
So how many years of advertising, assuming we sell everything, how many years of sold out advertising is that?
They're independent of each other. The advertising piece is totally separate from the actual fund for.
So what will the sponsorship money that you generate that turns into these signs, that is not earmarked for lights?
That's what he's telling us.
What will we be using that money for?
It'll pay for maintenance. It'll pay for electrical costs of the $1,000 a year it'll cost. The advertising dollars generated from the signage will go towards that. So if a light burns out 5 years down the road, theoretically, the advertising funds could be used for that.
And what is that annual power-up, or what is that annual maintenance cost been figured to be?
It's a 25-year warranty on that. I don't have a specific annual maintenance cost. I know what the electrical cost is, and that's about $1,000.
Total?
Total. 3.5 hours a night at 40 nights a year is about $920.
All right, so we're talking about maybe a few $1,000s worth of expenses this summer. But if you sell all this out, it's like $90,000 worth of ads. Okay, good.
No. The ads won't bring you that much, do they, Dave?
No.
Why don't you explain just what the ads are? They're separate from the sponsorship, I think.
Yeah.
Or part of it.
Yeah, well, it depends. If, let's say you've got a Hall of Fame level sponsor, if you could look at the page Tom's got there, what page is that?
Page 9.
Page 9. If you were to, what level do you get?
7, it's page 7 in our package.
Page 7.
All right, good look at this one. I should have page 9.
Well-oiled machine.
I could do it here too. On both.
If you see here on page 7, if you're a AA sponsor or above, you get a 4x8 sign included with your sponsorship of the Light It Up campaign.
And if you are a Hall of Fame sponsor and you pay, let's say, $25,000 to be a Hall of Fame sponsor, where does that $25,000 go?
Prescott Foundation in lieu of the Light It Up campaign.
And what does that $25,000 get spent for?
Lights. The construction of the lights.
Okay.
So there's a separate contract just for a sponsor who says, I just want to sign for 3 years. Can we do that, Dave? I say, yes, we can. Here it is, $1,500, 3 years. You can have a sign on the fence. But, so that's why they're kind of tied together, two separate things, but they are tied together. For sponsors that exceed or are at that AA, AAA, Major League, and Hall of Fame level. Any other questions? I've probably failed pretty good at this one, but...
I believe 10 talked about the advertising contract, page 10, isn't it? With just the signs for advertising.
Yes, page 10. There's two separate
That would be if
contracts.
they just want to advertise and not be one of those major sponsors, correct?
Yep, there's two separate contracts.
And the reason you're on the business section of this meeting is you're asking for permission to raise money using the school's name.
Yes, and there's no formal rule or ordinance around signage at any of our facilities, is my understanding. So for advertising purposes, we don't have a set program that says, yes, you can have a sign and it can't exceed a certain square footage. So, yeah, I'm here for a couple different things, I guess. So, but the plan is, right now, everything that we would do on the outfield fence would be in the foul areas in right and left field.
Okay, so it's just, that was one of my questions, so we're not going to cover the outfield fence, it's just in the foul lines?
Yeah, and let's say we get a sponsor that comes in at a Hall of Fame level and says, we're going to give you $100,000. We'll figure out a place to put a sign and maybe out in the playing area. Naming rights and things like that come into play at that level, but we'll bridge that gap when we get there. So.
Be a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I hope we have it.
If we're playing night games under the lights, who will be playing in those games? I mean, what age levels or groups are using the field in that scenario?
It opens the opportunity for, I think, correct me if I'm wrong.
8th grade and up.
Yeah, eighth grade and up. And right now, we don't really have any tournaments or things on Friday night where we invite teams in. Everything is done when the sun goes down. So 8th grade and up. In the summer, you'll see some Pirate games there in the evenings. The high school team, if they have an opportunity to do something in the spring, where maybe they do a doubleheader or something, or a tournament over a weekend, they could have a championship game under the lights or anything like that.
Any other questions? Dan, did you have any more?
No, I guess just a comment. The plan's fairly sound. It's for what it is. The plan is fairly sound. The fact that the stadium, the baseball field is again a central part of life for a lot of folks here, and that there is wider benefits. And I assume we're going to use the heck out of it, right? And we're going to bring, do we have a plan? We're planning on trying to maximize with concessions, make as much money as we can, right? So that's all good. Of course, I would rather see us, if we're going to raise all this money, I'd rather see it spent on education. But realistically, this is the kind of stuff people get behind, and it's part of the community too. So, frankly, what I'd really like us to see is to be successful at this and to use it as a model and apply it elsewhere. What I really, really like to see is some of this sponsorship money getting earmarked for camps or development program for kids. Put a little community service, support the youth element to that versus just going to lights. I think that gives you if part of maybe even 5% or a couple percent of a sponsorship goes to youth camps for below 8th grade, now you've increased the number of people you're serving. So I guess that'd be my adjustment to my suggested adjustment. Is you earmark 5% of sponsorship goes to the Prescott Youth Baseball Development, or PCR for that matter.
I would think that would work on the fence advertising contract. For the Light It Up campaign, I don't see that working.
Why?
Because the sponsors are giving their dollars for the construction of lights, not for the development of camps or anything like that. We're going to have, I've got some rough numbers here on if we were to sell 8 4x8 signs, 4 of the 4x4 fence signs, it's a total over the 3-year contract of about $16,000. You annualize that, take out the cost for the printing of the signs, and it gets you down to about $3,800 average revenue a year. You take out the electrical costs, and you get about $2,900 a year of just revenue, cash. That I could see being used for things like camps and other campaigns or tournaments or just general maintenance fund down at the field.
Yeah. And how'd you arrive at the pricing for these ads and sponsorships?
We looked at what Durand had done and what Meesville had done at their fields. And Dallas actually got some information right from the Durand, I think it must be their AD or something.
I think it came from the superintendent of schools in Durand.
And it was similar in structure, not the same, but very similar. And we felt comfortable that at that level, we could justify it over a 3-year period. It's a lot easier to go to someone and say, hey, if you can give us $500 a year, we can stretch it out for 3 years and you'll have your sign up for 3 years, versus asking for a lump sum.
Good, thanks.
Tom?
Yeah, it's good to see some activity to try and make something happen there at the field, which I give you credit for, Dave, and your entire organization. The only question I have, and I'd like to make sure it gets included, is the ads themselves, just making sure that they're appropriate in terms of reflecting on the fact that they're on school facilities. We need to make sure that, and I trust people's judgment, but I think it would be well put some type of guidelines that make that cast, so that you're not having to choose later, is this appropriate or not? And we obviously don't want something that would be inappropriate there, so.
April?
I completely agree with Tom on that. And do we have a advertising policy for the district right now?
No, we don't. That's why I brought it up, and I wanted to make sure the board is fine with the design, and I like the fact that the designs are all constant, same designs and so on, and uniform sizes and where, but I wanted to have the school board review this before. We don't have a policy. We probably should, but we don't. That's why he's here.
Probably need one before we enter any kind of contract, right? Because the minute you start offering this stuff, and like, say, King of Diamonds wants to be a major league sponsor, you got a problem.
I've already signed him up.
So many comments, Dave, so little time. So I think we'd want to protect yourself, you want to have the policy in place so you can deny on grounds of policy and not get into a hassle. Because they would love for us to not be ready for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're giving another task, which is fine.
Okay, so can you help us with that? Clearly, these guys that have done it before have accepted advertising and may have policies in place that govern that. Do you think there's a model we could apply, or?
Have Durand find out, because I'm certainly do.
That'd be awesome. If you could bring one of those in, we can work it around. And
Mike?
No, this is awesome. You guys are clearly prepared, and I honestly, I hope this succeeds. So, good luck.
Thanks for your work on this. At first, when I read through it, I was questioning kind of, why are there 2 buckets of money coming in? And I think you've explained it quite well. You need to raise your capital to make the capital improvements. And once that is taken care of, we can decide the next level of sponsorships and where that money goes. Whether it's lighting up something else or doing something for the school or whatever. I really appreciate the way you set that up. And as far as the advertising goes, we need to be appropriate, and I think it's a good idea to get a policy in place. And if you can help us with that, one question I do have for you. We don't want to slow you down, but we do want to be careful. If you don't sell advertising right away or start getting copy for advertising right away until we get this policy in place, does that hamper your production and getting this done?
It will slow things down, but we have to have something in place. We have to have something in place.
You know who we don't want ads from, right?
Well, just
Generally.
inappropriate companies that might be in conflict with kids playing on the field.
Let's keep it family-friendly and, informal overtures. If you need to get started, don't approach the wrong people, but we really need a policy in place.
We had
At
talked
least,
about...
at least that the ads have to be approved by the school
Yeah.
of some sort. And if you go forward that way, I think we'll probably be very safe. That you need to have yourself a way where you can save face that if you need to have an out, you need to have an out if the ads are inappropriate.
Okay.
Because even an appropriate business can have an inappropriate ad.
Yeah.
So we have to be careful with that too.
So, yeah, final approval of those would be from us, then, right?
My personal opinion is I would love to give you the green light to light this up and keep on going with that reservation of making sure that we have the approval of the advertising. That's where I'm coming from.
Sure.
So I would move that we would approve the plan for Light It Up campaign to raise funds for lights in the baseball field, along with the advertising plan pending approval of a district advertising policy.
I can second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Again, thank you for your work.
Thanks,
This
guys.
is a
Well done.
big project.
Yeah. Can you help me understand what that just meant? So can I keep going, or do I, and just bring each sponsor to you and say...
Keep working on the sponsors,
Okay.
and use your best judgment, and don't go approaching anybody
We're saying,
where you're going to get
we're
ahead
saying
of
go
things.
for it. We're reserving the right to approve the ads.
Gotcha. Okay.
Is that in a nutshell?
Yeah, I guess,
And policy.
And policy, and having the policy in place. We need the policy in place. That was what the motion was about. But we're not slowing them down. We're not saying don't go.
Okay.
But let's make that happen. We can make that happen within a little bit here, as far as like getting a draft on the table and all that stuff. All right, good, all right.
And I'll talk to Roger about it in March, because I see you guys in my...
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I gotta catch up to myself here. Number 5, consider youth options for fall of 2013.
Yes, as you can see on pages 11 and 12, Steve Peterson has brought to me 4 names that are recommended for fall youth options classes. UW River Falls, and we don't offer these classes ourselves, so these are classes above and beyond what we offer, so it's recommended that you approve these youth options applications for the fall of 2013-14, and if you approve it, they'll get in based on if the college has room for them or not. The university does.
April.
No, I think that's great. River Falls, good school, and I think I probably took a couple of these courses, so they're definitely good.
All right, Mike?
Yep, no questions.
Dan?
I think it's great. We've got academics and music represented here. We're sending somebody on to the concert choir and men's chorus. Cool.
Tom?
I'm good with them as well.
I'm good with it as well, and you bring that up. We had struggled with our concert choir many years ago. I'm going to take this as a compliment that we've made the right decisions and we have people interested in that and moving forward, because we weren't there a while ago. So I think that's a nice sign. So yes, I want.
Yeah.
Very good. We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the 4 students that have applied for youth options for the fall of 2013.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item 6, consider makeup of a snow day. I know Harry isn't here to vote on this.
He's truant.
All right. Roger.
Yes. Well, we thought we budgeted real well with 3 snow days, and we were sitting just fine until until May came along, and I got that huge snowstorm, so now we're short a day for our students. Looked at it, unless we're going to go a Saturday, or unless we're going to go during summer school, really the most logical date we can see is Friday, June 7th, I believe it is. Right.
Yep.
Friday, June 7th. So what we would do, we'd have regular classes on Thursday, June 6th. Friday, June 7th, we dismiss the kids at noon as we do the early release, as we do every other last day of school, and then the staff will have time to work on in-service Friday afternoon. One good thing about the snow day, one really nice thing about the staff was they came in and worked during the snow day. They worked afternoon, as it was a early release day, so they came in and worked that afternoon. And so I feel they put in a half a day already, working that day, but they didn't put in a full day, so we're requesting teachers working with Cheryl Spice and their principals to work on curriculum, another 3-4 hours on a flexible schedule to get some of that work done in June.
All right. Tom?
Yeah, I'm fine with that plan as long as we make sure that happens. I think we need to stay the course with those curriculum development hours.
Agreed. Dan?
Agreed.
Mike?
So the curriculum development, that's just we're gonna try and squeeze that in over their current schedule, or how
We
does that
are
work?
going to, no, what we're going to do is, for example, Dr. Halverson, he needs to talk to certain elementary staff to get them started in their curriculum. He might do that maybe Thursday, June 6th, and he might, when the students leave it, when they're usually done at 3:30, he might keep them for a couple hours till 5:30, that might be 2 of their hours. Then they might have more work that they have to do, and they might say, I'm going to do that Friday evening or Saturday afternoon or the next week, and give them some flexibility to complete that.
Okay.
As long as they do what we ask them to do and they complete it, give them some flexibility, and they turn the documentation in, we're fine with it.
Okay. I think that's a good compromise.
April?
Looks good to me.
All right. Looks good to me. We need a motion.
I'll make the motion that we hold school on Friday, June 7th, to comply with the state requirements.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item 7, approval of checks. April, any questions on the checks?
No, they look good.
Mike?
No questions?
Dan?
There are no unusual things in there, it's fine.
Tom?
No questions either.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the checks as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Motion carries. Moving to information and discussion. Number 1, receive an update from the Facilities Steering Committee. Tom?
Yeah, we're trying to keep everybody in the loop on what's going on with the facilities activity, and we do have a steering committee that meets every Thursday to try and keep focus and identify what needs to be done next. We've been meeting with groups throughout the community and individuals to try and get the word out and make sure everybody understands what the recommendation is. And as a result of those meetings, we've accumulated a significant amount of input, and in fact, probably need to provide some clarification to several questions. And so, in an attempt to try and get further information out and respond to some of that, provide a more detailed explanation of some of the pieces that people are questioning, we're going to have a couple of follow-up kind of feedback, I'm not sure that's the right word we use, but anyway, sessions, public sessions again, that would try to fill in the blanks for people in terms of the questions they have, and that'll be on May 20th and May 30th. So hopefully we'll see those meetings be as well attended as the earlier listening sessions. We had about 35 to 40 people at those 2 sessions, so that was encouraging. I think people are really wanting to find out and understand what's going on, and so I think the process is meeting its objective. So that's where we're at with the steering committee.
Any questions or discussion on that? Just open it up to the whole table. We've been working on this a while.
Were we going to add moving the Malone office to the front of the building to the steering committee's agenda? Can't remember what happened last meeting. I thought it was kind of still...
Yeah, that's ever been an issue for the steering committee, unless it became rolled into a broader referendum question at some point in time, but that's never been placed in front of us in that terms. I think that still resides here with this board to decide on if we want to do something with that.
Good question. Good question. Mike, anything?
No, I don't have any questions.
Yeah?
Yeah, I just want to thank the people that are doing it. We've got a team of people out there that are educating and informing and sharing facts and getting input, right? We've got a lot of great input from people on what we can and can't afford, can and can't do all over the spectrum, but really great job by the people that are out there on behalf of the team asking the questions. Thank you to all the volunteers.
Yeah, I agree.
Very dedicated people. All right, we'll move to item 2, discuss academic initiatives at Malone Elementary.
I thought we had more function.
You might want to move so they can
Good, I look forward to standing.
give you a chance to stand for a moment. Tried to make this as least painful as possible because I'm going to talk for 10, 15 minutes here. I think that's what you told me. Educational excellence is really a never-ending journey. It's a journey, it's not a destination. You never really arrive there. It's kind of a moving target, and it always is changing. I'll even back it up one. That's a behavioral matrix. It kind of addresses RTI, some of the mandates of RTI. A couple of years ago, we were in our second year of this, where we've established appropriate behavior expectations in the area. The red is the hallways, the green is the playground. Looking at that, looks like bathrooms and assemblies and field trips, and the yellow on the far right is busing, and the lunchroom is in the blue. On the far left, you see a column that says safety, respect, and responsibility. Excuse me. They really are the core things that we're dealing with in everything we do. No matter where you go in that building, we always have to be concerned about safety being first, and then secondly, respecting other people, teaching some of those social etiquette kinds of and characteristics, character traits, and finally responsibility, being responsible for oneself and responsible for others. We've developed something called Cardinal Time, and this is again in response to the mandates of RTI. We're on about our fourth year of this. Went to a conference several years ago, and I appreciate the opportunities the board sends us to conferences. We come back with ideas. We have a concept we call Cardinal Time, and during this 30 minutes a day, we break the students down into smaller groups, and we go about 30 minutes 4 or 5 times a week, and we provide reinforcement or enhancement activities. We're reteaching key concepts to students, and we're providing extensions to those who are very capable and doing extremely well. At the same time, we provide interventions, and this all addresses our RTI mandates. If you take a look at the next slide, you'll see a kind of a master schedule, and we're going to move one more. And this is the top half. This is the morning set. At the yellow column on the far left, you're probably wondering way back there, that's our Maple schedule. That really is the music, art, Phi-Ed, and library schedules. 4th grade in the upper left there is 8:10 until 9 o'clock is when we have our music, art, Phi-Ed, and libraries. The second column is an orange column. It's called Cardinal Time. Frog in my throat tonight. Excuse me. At 8:30 in the morning, the 5th graders have what we call Cardinal Time. And that is when we start, we literally stop all of our instructional activity, and we don't want kids missing their science. We don't want them missing their mathematics. We really want to have them in the regular classroom. And yet, as we have kids that need interventions, need assistance, we need to have a time set aside to try to better meet their needs. We'll roll the slides 2 more. If you take a class of 5th graders, we have about 95 of them. What we have is one section. We take about 15 kids from those 4 rooms. I have water, but I have fluids in my throat.
Give Harry's water.
Maybe it's the wrong kind of water. I'll try that, thank you. That's Kelly Johnson. She is our gifted and talented coordinator. And during the 30-minute set of instruction for fifth grade, and as well as this is K through 5, what she's working with, about 15 kids are broken out that could use some extensions and really trying to challenge those students. We can move on. We have interventions. So that you saw the 100 kids, you had 15 that are off just some extensions. We have interventions that are taking place in the area of reading. This has to take place in very small, intense groups, so they can, and we have to be able to progress monitor this. We have math interventions. The lady on the far left, this is a really neat opportunity. We really appreciate the support of Mr. Hunley on this one. We have a retired teacher. This retired teacher is working and providing math interventions to students, and yet she's getting substitute pay. What we've done, trying to be creative, trying to make your budget dollars go the farthest way possible, we have purchased about 100 days of sub-time, and we bring in people that are some solid teachers that, hey, we never wanted them to retire in the first place. And they just, and they're retired, but at the same time, they want to keep in contact with kids, and so what they're doing is they're coming back. She shares, this is Mrs. Mitchell, and she works with Mrs. Severson. Between the two, they kind of split the 100 days, so they can have some time, do a vacation here or there, go 5 weeks, and then somebody else takes over. So this is math interventions. We can move on. We'll run through these. Also, we have a number of these fifth graders that are receiving some Title I assistance. And we keep rolling our day. We're going to go these quickly. Progress monitoring takes place. When you progress monitor, you absolutely have to have your very best instructors, not aides. We're talking instructors. We're talking the people that are specialists in reading to be able to be providing some of this intense. And so this is a piece of progress monitoring, what you're seeing happening here. So when we're all done, we have about 10 or 12 people that are breaking out. So rather than having our 4 fifth grade teachers, we've got about 10 people. We've got a couple of aides in there helping us. We've got interventionists, math interventionists, reading interventionists, Title I people. We'll have a reading specialist involved in this at times. And the classroom teacher is working in the back here. He's actually doing progress monitoring, and these other kids are doing a variety of things that are pre-assigned. There's another classroom next door going on. This is just taking place today. So a number of them are working on computers. That's not a full class because they left with about 12 to 15 kids while this is taking place. And before we break these kids out into groups for 5 or 6 weeks, we conduct what we call a universal screener. And it's done on computer, and it takes us 2 or 3 weeks to get this done. We have to test all the kids in the building 3 times a year. We look at the data, we sort the data, we make instructional decisions about, okay, how can we break these kids out? And rather than working with 4 people, let's work with about 10 or 12. And what can we do to enhance, embellish, promote, provide us instruction that's age appropriate for their needs. This is another classroom, and this happens to be, these are laptops that they're using at this time. We are in the process of just adopting a new reading series. It's called Good Habits and Great Readers. Now, I'm not going to talk a long time on this, but basically one of the needs that we have to do is we want to have our reading curriculum aligned with the Common Core state standards. This new reading series that we have adopted, which we're starting it next fall, but we're already in service, and we have a person that's coming in and in-servicing our staff. We made staff visits. We had about 25 to 35 teachers that got out and saw other locations to examine this reading series. They are involved in the most comprehensive in-servicing we've seen since I've been here in terms of a reading series, math series adoption. And in the Good Habits Great Readers, it goes a couple hours a day. It provides leveled reading. Now, I'm going to say, maybe there are about 40 different levels, K through 5. So about 7 or 8 per grade level. Gone are the days when you deliver instruction where I stand in front of 25 kids and teach that reading class. Oh, okay, I broke it down into 2 groups. No. Those days are far long gone. In this new Good Habits Grade Readers, you're going to see small group reading, You're going to see shared reading, and you're going to see some team teaching. And in this team teaching, you're going to see special education teachers coming into the classrooms, teaming with our classroom teachers for portions of it. And then we break out. You're going to see words their way. I'll use code language. It's spelling for us in the old school. Spelling. You're going to see writing and skills assessment. We can roll, Dave. If you're looking at a typical reading class, you're going to see the daily 5 being involved. You're going to see the kids. This is Mr. Morning working with about 5 kids, and as he's working with kids at a specific ability level, he's got kids that are reading to themselves at their desks. We also want to see reading to someone else. We also want to see listening to others read. We also need to have them doing word work. That might involve things like word sorting and spelling and that type of thing. And it also involves writing. So several things are happening at the very same time. Another teacher doing the same thing, Mrs. Vanderweg in 2nd grade. You will see listening centers. Some of these kids are listening. There's about 2 or 3 that are doing this. We can roll again. And you're going to see these are writing centers. These are 3, 4 kids that are writing. 3 kids you can see there. 3 kids that are in the process of writing. And all this is taking place while that teacher is working in small group instruction. Some will do shared reading. I gain a lot out of listening to another student read because I'm hearing them. It's a skill to be able to read aloud. Some can read well to themselves. Some struggle when they start reading to others. So listening to others, developing listening skills, asking them what they just read, that's comprehension. Here's progress monitoring taking place also. We can keep rolling. It's checking with a student on how they're doing. We can roll. This is iPad work that's also going on. All this is going on simultaneously in a classroom of reading. Typical. That's the age, that's the way it is nowadays. You're seeing we have step workers, and here's a step worker in the back of the classroom. While this reading instruction is going on, she's providing some assistance, and this happens to be working. It looks like they're telling time. And other people that are in, volunteers, we have parents that come in and volunteer as well. We're going to move on. This is something, document cameras this is technology driven. It's kind of new to us. A couple of years ago, we got a couple of document cameras. We put some at the elementary. Mr. Nolt uses these all the time up at the middle school. In fact, they came up with a document camera. As technology is always moving. It's a moving target. It's always changing. And so the document cameras that we were spending $500, $600 on, we got new and improved ones. We listened to Lyle Nolt. We listened to our technology man, Dallas, and they said, get this new one. We dropped that price to about $200, $300, so we have the cost. We now have these in almost every classroom. What she is able to do with this document camera, if you're looking at it way back there, it's kind of an L shape. She is taking a picture right now of a piece of paper that she wants to project up on the wall. We can go next slide. Now she's inputting it into the computer, and now instantaneously it's up on the big screen so the whole class can see what's going on. It's being done in the middle school, being done in the high school, it's being done in the elementary. She could just as well underneath that camera have a heart there, pieces of a heart or something that's brought in, 3-dimensional. We're not talking the opaque projectors anymore. That's document cameras. That happens to be called hover cam. This is something we looked at. I went to a conference, bumped into some people, kicked some ideas at a few of our staff, and they jumped on it. Reflex Math, it's a program in which it's basically, by the time we get to 4th grade, we're kind of wondering, we've got some kids that they just haven't mastered their fundamental addition facts, subtraction, multiplication, and division. This program is something that we just picked up in March. And we're trying to pound it hard so these kids can hit 5th grade understanding this thing. It's a computerized program, it's individualized, it's interactive, and it's self-pacing. And you can progress monitor and show what kind of progress they're showing. We're going to roll. Whoop. Okay, it looks like you're still paying attention to me. I don't know. These are my grant writers. I don't know what happened when we did it on the jump drive. They took and wrote 2 grants, and what we have is about $3,500 worth of software, which we got for like $0. We have a year and a half, and we have 70 kids between the two. So we use this program for our after-school mini cards program, and we use it we're targeting our 4th graders, so when we do our 4th grade, they kind of break out, and we'll take about 25, 30 kids, and some from every one of those fourth grade classrooms. Kind of look at the arrow there, it shows the barometer. The fluency is the level that they're functioning at. We can roll. 20 minutes a day, at least 3 times a week. And this is a student working on it right now. It's customized to him. And in just a short month, they went from like 30% to 35 or 40%, and that's just more charts. We can roll it. If you want to see it in another way, the blue is where they were a month, and month into it is what they're doing in the red. That's kind of progress they're making. Go ahead. This is an example. I'll read the one if you're way in the back. An example of the progress of an individual student. They went from knowing 82 facts at the beginning of the program and is now at 150. That's a 68% increase in about 6 weeks. It deals with fact families. Now these little circles, I'll read one of them. It's 30 and a 5 and a 6. So as you work with 30, 5 and 6, 30 divided by 5 is 6. 30 divided by 6 is 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Those are multiples, family multiples. The dark green ones would show what this student has accomplished in the last month. We can roll. If you want to see it, this is a program where the students can take it home. What we're doing in the school is in the orange. What you're seeing in the green is what they go home, jump on a computer, they work on it, develop it at home, and I, the teacher, can monitor that progress because I record it all through the use of that marvelous wireless service that we have. This is an example of a student, I can't read it very well from here, David. It looks like February till about mid-April, the kind of progress that they made. They were functioning at grade 3.4, and I think it shows that they're up to grade 4.2 in about 6 weeks in terms of grade level. This program is also being used in our after-school program. And so they go outside 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Not Wednesday, that's church night. Friday, that's Friday. They're heading out for a lot of weekends and families and that type of thing. So it's used in the after-school program. We'll roll. First Tee program, another initiative we just started. First Tee program, it basically is a golf program we're using in Fayette. We got about $3,300 worth of equipment we picked up by writing a grant. Physical education teacher. 4 hours of training, certifying tests that they're convinced that he can teach this instruction. $3,300 worth of equipment, and he will be teaching putting, chipping, driving, and safety and golf etiquette. It exposes, for the first time in our school district, children to golf at this age. Now, are they really hitting golf balls? No, we'll turn it. That's tennis balls they're using. So he's doing skills instruction. We can keep rolling, Dave. And this is putting in the gym. Those are tennis balls, and they're, in that gym you'll also see chipping going on. You'll also see driving going on. And we can roll one more. Now they're outside. This took place today. You can see a big white circle out there. It's a golf course out there today. 40 kids out there, 6 holes. They're hitting tennis balls, and somebody hollers, "Dr. Alverson, you're in my driving edge. Look out." And so then he teed off as I got out of the way, because there's a lot of kids out in that yard. Moving on, Cow Lab. We have 2 Cow Labs now. It took us about 3 weeks to do we do 3 universal screeners to see where the kids are so we know how to break them up. It took us about 3 weeks to accomplish that. We picked up a second Cow Lab this year. Dallas equipped us. With that, we cut that time period down to inside of 2 weeks. And I talked earlier about our interventionists. We have 100 days there. Now I've got, rather than, when we bring those people in to do that intervention work, they're not coming in to test, to monitor, to write plans, and this type of thing. They're working, it's 100% of their time is working directly with kids. Because we have a Cow Lab, 2 Cow Labs, plus a permanent lab, we're able to conduct this K-5 testing in 2 weeks rather than 3 or 4 weeks. We can turn this, we'll move it along, Dave. And you know what? Our parent committee is instrumental in helping drive what's going on down there. Let's take it one more. Example. This is this morning. That is a new iPad cluster lab. Parent committee, $10,000 coming to us. We went to them. We asked them, we want to put, first of all, this fall we put iPads in the hands of every teacher. Taught them how to use it. They've been in-servicing. How do we deal with bringing in, importing apps for them? How can we go about doing this? We're on our way. So now we want to get 35 out there and go 5 for every class, every grade level. So we're going to, with 35 computers, 5 for first grade, 5 for second, 5 for third. It's in a cart. That's a steel cart. And right now, today, he is programming and configuring so that we can import apps and put them in all these things in a very short time span. We can roll. And so this particular charging station charges, it has mobility, so it's going to be stored in the office, or it could be moved to another location if necessary. It has a steel cart, it's secured, it's a lockdown cart, and it synchronizes, so if we want to add apps, a certain app to to the first grade iPads, bang, it can get done in a timely fashion. It doesn't end with just teaching the staff about it. It goes on because it's important. This year we're trying to have our aides not be working project-based. They are doing a lot more classroom instruction, working hand in hand with the classroom teacher. So they need to learn how to use these iPads as well. This is a case of 12 aides, and not just from Mullen. There were some from the middle school and high school that came down to learn how to use these iPads. It's a powerful tool, especially down in the elementary. Mirroring with iPads. This is coming. We have 2 classrooms that are equipped where, and Dave did it last month when he made his presentation. He had his iPad here, and he was on his iPad. It's in the hands of Mrs. Christensen there, and what she has in her hand, what she is touching on her iPad is mirroring and projecting on that screen so the whole class can see it. I would hope that we're going to have this in the hands of every classroom teacher by next year. We have it in the hands of 2 this year, and we're kind of piloting it. We're getting good success with it. But this is coming. It's going to be just basic boilerplate. I mean, it's going to be just common. Moby Math Grant. This particular teacher, Mrs. Christensen, wrote a grant, submitted it to the parent committee, and she received a grant. And what she has in this, we're going to turn it one more. I can talk a little more on it. In this, it aligned with the Common Core state standards. It allows the teacher to monitor student progress. And she has the ability to customize lessons for kids, and they jump on this during cardinal time. He uses it during cardinal time, and she can read these printouts. That very bottom one you can't see, but the very bottom, it's a flat line, and all of a sudden it comes way up. That's when she started the program. That's where the child was on state standards and how well they were meeting 5th grade state standards. Bang, look at the change in about 1.5 months. It's customized, and these are printouts that meet the Common Core state standards. That's what drives instruction in today's world. And you can customize, you can see other reports on there. We can keep rolling. Ending up, National Current Events top score. We're pretty proud of that. And we happen to have a gentleman in, we have Randy Meyer in from Fox News, and we were doing a presentation from Mr. Lynn, a surprise one. And this little guy was kind of surprised because he got himself, it was presented to him by the TV people. So it was pretty outstanding. He's there with his parents. And that was the top score in the country on this thing. Mr. Lynn was not, that was for the Fox News that they were in for him. And that's in front of 3 or 4 of our grade levels. We couldn't get the whole student body in there, in that gym that day because we have what did we have going? Book fair, thank you. We had a book fair going on, and we could only get 3 or 4 grades in there. So we should have had 200 more kids in there. Bottom line is this: we have to stay on top of things. Education is not static; it's constantly moving. If you snooze, you lose, and you got to stay ahead of things. And I think Mr. Knoll put it. He says it all the time. If you're not moving forward, you're not making progress, and you're going backwards. It's an either-or thing. Bottom line is, you don't want to be like these guys. You don't want to miss the boat. That's what we've got going on in Malone in the last couple of years, and that's just academics.
All right, comments, discussion, information and discussion. There's a lot of information.
No, I think Scott answered just about every single question I've ever had about Malone Elementary academics, so thank you.
It was very well done.
Yeah.
Very well done. Anybody else?
No, that was great.
No? All right. Let me catch up. Update on the organization of PCR. Mike?
Yeah, so I guess you can flip over to page 22. I was working with our community director, Carrie, and Dave Worthrams. And one of the things that came out of some discussions was just kind of defining the basic org chart. And this might have been the way the reporting structure was, but it wasn't very clear. And I wanted to basically make sure that it is clear. And a couple things about it. I just threw some notes down here. This was already, I think this was already probably known, but again, I just wanted to throw it out here. It's clear that the PCR director is going to be a direct report to the athletic director. That's the person that will hire and fire this position. The director, also there's a line to the PCR board. Basically, the director is not on the board, doesn't get to vote, makes recommendations to the board, and the board is responsible for any actions there. One of the other notes I want to point out here is there's a line from the school board to the PCR board there. It's really, I don't know if that was clear or not before, but really what I think it's important to understand here is there's the school board should be more collaborative with the PCR board through the PCR board, school board liaison on that board. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more collaboration to make sure that the communication line between the PCR and school board is just more collaborative. I don't think it was as collaborative as it could be. So I just wanted to call it out as a, probably the line could have always been there. I just think that putting some emphasis on it is important here. So the rest is pretty, basic, straightforward stuff. I haven't changed anything. I mean, you got the commissioners and the coaches. The page 23 and actually page 24 are identical almost, except the PCR director. The PCR director responsibilities are identical, I should say. The rest of them, all I did was I haven't changed anything or any roles or responsibilities here. I just felt that it needed to be a little bit more clear, so I tried to clean some of it up and make it a little bit more organized and something that we could at least maybe have some dialogue around. So none of this has changed. I mean, the PCR director responsibilities, they oversee the PCR programs, they coordinate with the commissioners, field complaints and suggestions, just basically handle the administrative stuff, coordinate, the board meetings for PCR board meetings. They manage the budget and handle all the invoices and all that stuff. And then they're basically coordinating the field space and working with the athletic director on coordinating field space as well. So I wanted to call that out. I didn't change anything from the current format of the responsibilities. I just kind of tried to clean it up a little bit. So I guess our next steps right now, I wanted to get your guys' feedback, number one, to see if we're kind of moving in the right direction. We now have, if we agree that the reporting structure looks good, we can kind of work from that now and start defining the lower, the responsibilities of all the boxes, essentially. So I guess that I would look for your guys' feedback on that and see if that's a good approach, if that's what we want to do. If you have any objections or any questions, maybe I'll stop at this time and ask if you have any questions about the org structure.
Feedback from Mike? Anyone?
Isn't the org chart I'm looking at right now, isn't this the way it already was?
Yes, it was. I don't think it was very clear. That was my point.
So the PCR director has always reported to athletic director?
Yes.
And the AD has always been a member of the PCR board?
That is correct. Again, it wasn't very clear to me. That's why I wanted to call it out and make sure that it's clear to everybody. Right?
Yeah. It needs to be clear.
So, obviously, our next steps, getting feedback from you guys is important. It sounds like we have some applicants for the PCR director. I don't know if we want to comment on that right now, but that's obviously a position, and now we're going to have to backfill the athletic director spot here too. So, all stuff that we got to consider here. So,
Mike, I didn't see in any of these job descriptions, like evaluation, like who's evaluating who?
As far as the org itself? Right, so I think if you look at it, you got the athletic director who's doing the evaluation of the PCR director, if that's what your question is.
And then work out from that. Then who else is evaluating? Who is the PCR director evaluating the PCR commissioners?
In the past, I don't know if we've done evaluations, but that's a really good point, and I think that should be probably something that we should talk about as a school board. If we think that's something that we want to pursue, I'd definitely be willing to provide that input and try to build that out.
We also have coaches now being pre-screened. Maybe I missed the bullet. Who's got responsibility for pre-screening coaches?
Is it background checks, is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, background checks?
Yep, and we talked about that at a previous board meeting.
Where's that fall in the org chart?
That's a good question. I believe that would be at the PCR director level. I'm not 100% sure on that, though.
I would agree.
And so does PCR director, in your org chart, it looks like commissioners would decide the coaches in your org chart?
Ultimately, I think you give the final say as far up the chain as you want to go, maybe. But I think the commissioners in general in the past have done the selection of the coaches.
So you'd want to have that be a bullet, right? Whoever's selecting the coaches, you'd want to put that in their job description.
And like I said, Dan, this is all I did was take the information that was already there and aggregate it to make
Right. And we're just building it out right now in information and discussion, right? That's why I'm asking. Yep. So we'd want to add, selecting coaches in there, background check, evaluations. Good. Do we have, what about budgetary, fiduciary stuff? Who's got what budgets in this scenario?
Yep, so where we're at right now is PCR director is responsible for the budget, right?
Overall?
At this point, they're the ones that are responsible. This person is the person responsible for the PCR budget. I don't think that has changed. I think that's the way it's always been.
So does the PCR director, let's say the PCR director decides that their favorite sport is soccer and all the soccer kids need brand new uniforms, right? Who does the PCR director have sole discretion of that expenditure?
I think that would be a discussion at the PCR board level, as well as maybe the athletic director.
I think that's why you have a board, right, is to provide that, just like we have a level of oversight on budget expenditures here.
Right. The PCR director's making recommendations to the board. That's maybe an example that you gave right there would be an example of, this is what I'm thinking, we need new uniforms for every soccer
So for PCR director, you would say recommends, right, and manages operation of the budget, and then for the PCR board of directors, you would say approves of, right?
Exactly.
I have a comment on that. In general, I agree with that, but setting the budget is setting the budget to make sure that it turns out right, but I don't want every purchase and everything that's done to have to go through the board. I think it's important that the PCR board monitors the budget and that makes sure it's kept in line, but I don't know that, whoever PCR director is, has got to take every purchase to the board.
I think there's a system of checks and balances that we have to probably...
You probably put a dollar figure on the amount that has to be approved by the board, but the board would also get a packet of checks that went out so they can see where it's going.
For sure. For sure.
That's the way this, we don't approve every check, but if anything, major purchases, an example of
changes. So is this a decision-making board or an advisory board? What is the nature of this board? Because when you look at the PCR board, it says attend monthly meetings, vote on all changes to mission and/or programs, make decisions based on the mission of PCR, and then to advocate things, provide input, suggestions to the PCR director, assist with the resolution. I mean, what's the vision here for what the board is actually doing?
I think the board, one of the things that we're working on right now is clarifying some more of the board in the responsibility in the role of the board. We're not there yet. The org chart that we laid out was this. We haven't gotten into those details. The vision, in my opinion, would be that the board is the board. I would like to see the PCR board run more like the school board, a little bit more structure around some of the meetings, maybe have the agenda a little bit tighter, and approve or deny.
I agree. This is an absolutely valid question. This is why we have to. We can generate this. We're not asking you to give us an answer. Just say, I just believe
it's a question to work on. Yeah, a question to work on.
So we're not putting you on the spot.
No, and that's fine. We're not there yet. I think the bottom line is we're not there yet.
It's a work in progress.
I wanted to get it in front of the school board first because we have a PCR board meeting on Monday, and I just want to get the support from the top down before we go any lower.
Okay, so maybe we could have just a discussion around how we see that whole thing working. I mean, what are your opinions on the role of the PCR board, right? Decision-making, advisory, what's the scope, right? What's in play, what's out of play for the board? I mean, I'm interested in what your opinions are.
Let's talk about it, because this is probably one of the reasons it's here, because it hasn't been very clear. And I don't want anything that comes here to be, well, this is the way it has to be done. This is just information discussion. Where do we think we should go? I was the liaison before Mike was, and we were lucky to have one or two people there at those meetings. Now, PCR's changed quite a bit since then. So, also, the expenditures have changed, and some of our activities with this have increased the hours of the director, which I think will give that person more opportunity to get things done correctly, where the board could be more advisory than action. Like, this is the way I see it's going. This is what I think we need to do. Advise me if that's correct, or approve, and let's move forward.
I'll elaborate on that a little bit. The way I see it too is the board is a policy-making machine. That's what I think the PCR board, it should drive policy and make policy and make decisions based on those policies. A lot of that is not well documented from what I've found. So I think one of the things that I think we need to do as a board is kind of revisit what we have and document it, essentially, and get it documented and put it visible on our website. I think the website needs to be a huge play for PCR. I've looked at other districts and organizations and what they have, and we need to be doing it better as far as getting information to our parents and children, so they basically have that information available to them. And I think that from a board, to get back to your point, I think the board is basically should be setting policy, just like we do, right? I mean, that's the way I'd like to see it. And does that answer your question, or?
Yeah.
I think it's a great start.
April, what do you think?
How long do board members typically stay on the board?
Great question.
Because that would
I think they're lifers.
determine what, if they're on there a long time, I see
You're in for life.
being more involved. But if not,
No, really. It's very hard to find. I think in the past, and maybe you could shed some history on this, Mark, but I think in the past it's been difficult to just get because it's a volunteer position. So getting volunteers to step up and be a part it can be challenging at times, and I think terms is a good thing. I think we should have terms. I'm not sure, since I've been on the PCR board in 2 years, we've had the same members, so I haven't experienced anybody, whether or not they've had a term come up or not, so I couldn't even answer that question.
the way you describe the culture makes me think an advisory board would be more appropriate.
So I'll give you an example.
That you have trouble getting people to be there, and do you really want some people that aren't gung-ho about it to be the leaders of the program? I don't know, it just doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
You asked me for a little feedback on this. I think part of the reason it was hard for board members to come to board meetings was there was not clear direction of what their tasks were and what we were going to accomplish.
What their role was.
It was more, I want to find out what's going on, I want to approve it. And the director asked for input, and it was almost more like a committee where this is what we're going to do, what do you guys think, the gals think, we're going this way with softball, we're going to go this way, this is how we want to do this. That's how it worked before. And that's one of the reasons we brought this up in the first place. I think we need to redefine this. The animal's gotten so large that it has to get done better.
Are you saying that there's a shortage of volunteers for the PCR board?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying, but I question, I don't want to, I can't speak for people, but I think being a volunteer is very taxing, because a lot of people volunteer not just in one thing, but many things. And it becomes sometimes overwhelming for people. And I think, to your point, Mark, adding a little bit more structure, a little bit more direction might make that position a little bit more doable, because you'll know what it is that you're responsible for. Before, I felt like, I feel like that it's not as well defined as it needs to be at this point.
Makes sense.
Pointing no fingers at anyone involved with this. It just evolved.
Yeah, it did.
Right.
Absolutely.
I don't want anybody that was involved with this before think they did a bad job, and that's why we're here.
No, absolutely
That's
not.
not the case. Actually, I think they did an excellent job, and that's why the program is so large.
successful.
Right.
So, Tom, what's your feeling?
Well, I think having the defined roles is an important thing, as Mike has been trying to explain and doing a good job of it. But I think it would be helpful for people. I mean, if we went out to the average person in the community, or someone who wants to be a member, well, what am I committing to? And having an understanding of that is certainly an important thing, and certainly something we want to see continue to improve on and grow. And the definitions and the roles here is going to help that, I think.
I agree, Tom. I'm going to ask a question. And if we can get an organization that handles this, I think probably the number one nagging problem is possibly a parent that's upset with the coach for some reason. Mm-hmm. Where do they go? We need that very clear. And where does the board stand on it? Because right now, that problem goes all over the place. So we don't like to have those problems, but as long as you're dealing with sports and children, they're going to happen. So we need a clear path for the parents to get on board and understand the process and engage it and work. So if we can make that one of your priorities, wherever it falls, so we're comfortable with it.
That's great, Mark. You said the key word, which is process. What we see some static pictures and bullets, but what really is the question for people is something happens, and what's the flow, right? What's the flow there? So I think that is the next step, is establishing some processes, like some frequently utilized processes. Parent has a complaint about a coach. Parent has a complaint about playing time. Mm-hmm. Somebody gets blah, blah, blah. Right? We got to just have a set of, we got to have processes and policy.
Provide some direction for everybody.
Yep. On the subject of the board, though, as a volunteer, it is awesome when you are volunteering for something and you can have an impact. And it is intensely frustrating when you volunteer for something and you feel like you're not able to have an impact, or you're ignored or not listened to. So if we're gonna do this and still have a board, I think we should give it a role and make sure that it does have, the ability to resolve things like a coach thing or a dispute, for example. And I think alongside that, though, you've got to add accountability for the board. It is a bigger job now. There's more, it matters. It's central to the community. And you can't have board members that are showing up, like once every 2 years to a board meeting. So PCR board's got to be held accountable for that. And if they're not able to make a certain number of meetings, they probably would need to step aside, right?
Yeah,
a standard, if you will, for participation.
Mm-hmm.
And a manageable size of a board. Sometimes those boards are way too large to be manageable.
Some of us think 5 is one too many for this board.
So I'm hearing,
Oh, damn.
I'm hearing requirements and expectations out of PCR board members.
And then process, to Mark's point. What's our process and thus our policy? Because, I mean, I think we really need that. If you look at where the challenges and the things that have bubbled up to us have come from, it's 2 lines. It's the line between PCR director and board, and are we operating that effectively? And then it's the accountability and oversight of the athletic director. You know, shame on us for not having had that clarity before, given the amount of lives that we touch with this program. You know, for us to have that be confusing is bad, so I'm glad we're clearing it up.
So let's talk about the board then, because this is an important part too, is the selection process of the board. Is that, right now, it's been, hey, Louis, do you want to be on the PCR board? Because we need another member.
Louis. Say no.
So, I mean, I don't feel like there's been there hasn't been a clear, you know, like you said, a term length. You know, what happens if a PCR board member is out of line? What do you do? You know, that's where we all step in. But, I mean, how do we want to define that as a board?
I think you meet with your athletic director and the PCR director and work that out.
Okay.
Yep, I think we got to lay some of that out.
Could the board have their own, like, bylaws that they would follow that would have that kind of information?
We should.
Most boards do.
Most boards do.
Yep.
If it's a real board, right, and if we want to go through
that's where I want to take it, so.
Which should be a real board.
This isn't going to happen overnight. This is a big project.
Yeah.
Big project.
Oh, no,
It's a step in the right direction.
We got 2 open positions above the to fill, so.
So take your time to get it right. That's all we ask.
There you go. Good start, though.
Yes. Any other discussion on this? Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, thanks, Mike.
Report on Communication Committee's activity and status.
Like Terry Fish report on that. Starting on page 26, she's got some information.
Thanks for staying with us this long.
No problem. Dr. Halverson warned me that he was going to have that nice, lovely presentation.
Yeah.
And my bedtime is like 9:30, so, yeah.
Mine's 8:30.
I won't be 10 or 15 minutes. But I do want to give time to just talk about what we've done with community engagement activities. I was hired, as you know, at the end of August of 2012, and so we've had the whole school year to get some about education and what's right for the kids in this district, that it makes this job easy and a lot of fun, to be honest with you. My main goal tonight is just to update you on a few things we've accomplished. Some things were in place when I started, and we just put it on a track so that it's a good regular communication source. One thing is the superintendent's scoop. Roger has done a good job of communicating to the public through a regular column, and we've stepped that up a little bit, so we're trying to get that out there 2 times a month for sure on some pertinent topics. Some of those things have included very important and weighty issues like snow days, and other weighty issues like the Newtown disaster and how Prescott reacted to that. So it's been a wide variety of subjects, all of them important to every one of us. Press releases. These are just really purposeful communications with the public, usually involving pictures and nice stories about things that we might not always hear about. We have some great teachers in this district who are very good about getting stuff to the paper. But there's some things that sometimes get missed if we have someone who's a little more shy about promoting themselves. So we've made sure that we've had things out there like teaching staff awards, students who received awards, changes in the Department of Public Instruction that might affect us, how they score our schools, how they test our children, things that people might otherwise not really hear about because they aren't just things that get published. So we've had about 13 specific press releases from the district on top of all the great things that our teachers get in the paper. So that's been really helpful. So between all that, we have a good weekly presence in the Prescott Journal, in the Pierce County Herald. I think every single week, if you pick up the paper, you're seeing something about Prescott School District. We link many of those articles through Facebook. Facebook has been an extremely good communication tool for the district. It was in place before I came here. I think, April, you had a lot to do with that, probably. When I started here, I wasn't quite following how many likes there were, but in December there were 816, and today we had 946. We're almost to my personal goal of 1,000 likes. So if any of you haven't liked us on Facebook yet,
Well, that's up like
We
300.
need,
That's up
yeah.
about 300 since
Yeah.
you got here.
yeah, so we need 54 more likes, and we'll have met my goal by the end of the school year. I would love that. We have an average weekly reach of about 1,100 people through Facebook, so it's an impressive communication tool. We're reaching people, and you get your biggest following right when someone's wondering if school's going to be closed. So Roger, those snow days that you have, they've really helped Facebook.
All right.
Just so you know.
Hit the hits, yeah.
The website is also an excellent resource. There's a lot of historic documents out there. It's just a great place for someone to go and find out what the board's been doing, find out what each of our school buildings are doing, current events, weekly schedules. It's just a really great resource. So Mandy and I do a lot of communication back and forth to make sure what's on Facebook is matching what's on the website, and that all of our communication is very, very consistent. So we are usually the first ones to know if we've messed something up there, but if we don't catch it, someone catches it for us, and we actually appreciate that, so that's a good thing. We did 4 bi-monthly newsletters this year, so we're trying to keep that on a track so that you get a newsletter that covers 2 months' worth of activities, and trying to keep that on track for next year, too. We also have a special edition going out based on the listening session responses, and it should be hitting mailboxes at least by Monday. So good deal on that. Roger is providing very good staff updates after the board meeting. We have an informal survey out there with staff right now, and that happens to be one of the biggest communication pieces for our internal employees right now. So that might be something we'll look at beefing up a little bit next year. But that internal staff update right after a board meeting just really carries a lot of weight with employees, so that's an important piece. And then our team has been involved in preparation of materials for special projects. The biggest thing this year, of course, has been on the facility needs, the space issues, and recommendation. I have a really good team that assists me on that, so if I do need help with something, I have people I can call on, and that's really nice. Otherwise, we're at a point where we're able to do some of this routine communication pretty smoothly, and then just call on people when there's bigger, more major projects that need more input. So some of the projects that we're working on that will come back to you next year when we have them a little more formalized is our branding and image initiative, kind of deciding is Prescott red or is Prescott burgundy? Is Prescott the Flying P or is Prescott the Cardinals? Kind of those sort of like marketing type issues that, probably most people don't care about, but it does really help the image if we get that consistent, so that'll be something for next year. A school engagement project to just look at best practices for effectively engaging people in our schools, researching those opportunities and measuring people's kind of success with their schools and figuring out what we do well, making sure we're covering things like Lyle Nolt going out and cleaning up lawns, that type of thing, making sure that people know that we do those things in the community because we might not be seeing that, making sure that people understand all the great things at Malone, more than just at a board meeting, making sure people understand the curriculum changes going in place. So that's kind of what that school engagement will be a measure of. And then in intranet, we have GaggleNet coming in, so Dallas and the IT team and communications people will be taking a look at making sure we're utilizing the services in that will allow that internal communication to be more efficient and more effective with our employees. And finally, any outstanding items, I ran across a document dated May 6, 2011, that has recommendations to the board on communication efforts, and there's a couple things on there we may want to take a look at next year, and of course, any new initiatives that the board may decide that the communication effort needs to take a look at. So again, I just thank you for the opportunity. There's so much cooperation from staff, and I think there's a lot of good things to talk about in Prescott. When you have teachers and students getting state and national awards, there's something right happening here. And I think that's the important thing to focus on as we move forward and as we continue to grow in this district. And I think when you have so many great programs and groups of people and parent groups having so much information that I can't fit them into a 12-page newsletter, that's a good sign. So we have some good things going and great things to communicate. Questions?
Any questions, anyone?
I have a comment. Carrie does a super job. She's highly skilled, works very hard. We're very, very fortunate to have her. And I'm very pleased the Communications Committee a number of years ago recommended this position. It's been a real asset for our district. Thank you, Carrie.
Good. You're welcome.
Yes, thank you, Carrie.
Carrie, thanks.
I would agree, it's one of your best hires, Fred. I'll also say that it's, I didn't know it was possible with all these on the pages, but you actually may have understated all the things you've done here internally and externally. So just incredible job in the hours you've given us. Thank you. Well done.
All right, thank you. Review 2013-14 preliminary budget.
And every May, I try to give you a preliminary budget, and it's tight, but it's balanced, but it's a little bit of a guess, because the state hasn't set their budget yet. And whenever how they set their budget's going to affect us. So right now, I'm budgeting for $150 per pupil increase. That may or may not be there. We'll find out, may have to adjust it. I also budgeted for a 2% increase in health insurance. And good news in the health insurance, we got a 0% increase this year.
Wow.
So thanks to our staff and thanks to Deb Hooper for working to keep our health insurance costs in line. Really appreciate that. One of the big expenses we have a difference is under expenditures, 470 textbooks. Last year, we had budgeted for $11,900 because we were looking to see what the core standards were going to be, so we were waiting to find that. And as you can see right now, we've got $142,000 budgeted. That's a $130,000 increase. And that's to take care of the reading series. Reading, like Dr. Robertson talked about, that's a key part of our district, and if kids don't know how to read properly or follow those guidelines, we don't have the foundation, we need to do that. And typically in the school district, placing the reading series is the most expensive thing to do, but it's also probably the most important thing to do. Wow. So that puts a strain on the budget, but that's kind of an important thing to do. I'll open it up to questions. I won't go over everything. I'll just see what questions you have.
About the textbooks.
Right.
So if we spend that much money, it might be a necessity. How available, like with maybe iPads or other technology, that could we purchase enough hardware over the course of time where we could maybe start phasing out textbooks altogether?
I probably should have Dr. Halverson talk to that, because this isn't all textbooks. There's some other materials in too, aren't there?
Where you could just download your book.
A lot of it's software. A lot of it is software. And part of that process of the $140,000, we have a consultant coming in that's providing a lot of that in-servicing right now. And that person's been in probably 3 days already with the staff, and we'll be doing that again in July and early August.
Okay.
So it isn't just...
I'm looking at it from a perspective of as we grow towards a more technical direction, should we be looking to phase out buying books in general? I know books are a good thing. They're always good to have that book in hand. But in some instances, maybe, you could replace it with e-books or something that you could download. And
I see what you're saying, yeah.
It's heading in that direction, and we have not had a science text in 20 years at home. Social studies, we're using FOSS kits, and that's FOSS science kits, and it's heading in that direction. The e-books are coming. Down until primary, elementary, you're going to probably have some textbook in that reading department, but we've seen a lot more.
Okay.
It's going on.
Good question. Anyone else on the budget?
Does this budget include savings through third-party billing? Because I remember last year when we went over the budget, we were concerned that we might lose that because we lost our SPED director, who kind of kick-started that.
The changes that were Stephanie Hubbard brought, that's included in this budget, yes, to continue those things. Is that what you're asking?
We're still predicting the same savings.
Right.
I notice electricity is flat. You project no increase in electricity, and gas is going to go down due to our hedging strategy.
Right, that's correct. That's what I'm predicting at this time. Based on what our hedging strategy and the gas, for sure, because I know what those prices are going to be now most of the year.
Yep. Employee benefits went up $100,000. Speak more to that.
Which number is that?
I'm on page 30. It says it's the wrap-up of the 200 series there.
Right, okay. That's not going to be quite the case, because I budgeted for insurance to go up 2%, which is line 241. If it doesn't go up at all, that's a $57,000 savings. The
What line?
difference
What line?
between 1260 and 1203, so that number will be reduced by 57,000 because of the no increase in health insurance.
Okay, so you have not factored into this budget what you just told us?
I have not yet.
Gotcha.
I just got the word on the
Understood.
0% increase very recently.
All right.
More questions?
I guess I have one more question. Are we anticipating any additional maintenance or expense regarding portable classrooms? And are we anticipating any other operating expenses around replacing boilers and whatnot at Malone that we're going to have to absorb?
The replacing boilers is factored into a different fund. It's not Fund 10. There's a yearly bond that will pay off on that. I think we're supposed to pay off.
Yeah, but we're going to have like people working extra hours to make things happen, right? Your custodial staff will probably be in here extra. There's things like that happening, aren't there?
I don't anticipate that. Most of that work's going to happen during the summer and during the fall, as far as putting in the new heating and boiler system, you mean?
Mm-hmm. So we won't have any extraneous expenses or miscellaneous expenses.
I don't anticipate any.
Most of that was factored into the price of putting
Right.
it in, that's in the
Right.
bonds.
Right.
And I think, Dan, what you're asking is, do we have anything else factored in case it goes over that? Is that what you're
Yeah, I
saying?
mean, usually you'll want to put some money, some contingency money aside to make sure that, if something goes wrong, all of a sudden I got to call custodians in, or I end up using more power than I thought, et cetera, et cetera. You got a little slushy for that, Project management. If we can handle that, if you feel like we got enough wiggle room in our current maintenance budget, that's another way
That's
to
probably
do
where
it.
it'd fall.
Yeah, we have a little wiggle room, but also the contract with Train, what they signed it for, it's their job to make it work. They have warranty and maintenance on that. It's their job to make it work.
Yeah, but you know what happens, if a contractor comes into your house, they come in, they do their thing, they clean up, but it's not cleaned up. You still got to move back in, and you've had to move out for them, et cetera. So I just want to make sure we're thinking about the expense involved in prep and recovery from that work.
It will certainly disrupt our summer at Malone. With summer school and trying to get things done, there'll be some things we're going to have to work around for a while. It's going to be a big project to get in a small amount of time.
Anything else on the budget? This is not going to be our last look at it.
No, it isn't. This is very preliminary. This is what I know at this time. You'll probably get another one in July and then another one in October.
And the big one is the funding wild card, right?
That's right.
Right.
That's the huge wild card.
Information be?
What's that?
When will the state funding be?
Well, we expect, they're telling us the budget will be set sometime before July 1st, is what they're guessing.
So the next time we see it, you'll know that.
So we know what we're having for state budget and revenue, yes. We should have.
Cool.
All right, we'll move to consider bids to replace the bus garage roof. Roger?
Yeah, Mike Hoyk is working on that for us, and we didn't have time to get everything in by today. Let me read my notes here a bit. But what Mike has done, he's contracted 6 local contractors on the bids replacing the bus garage roof, and it says they're due May 23rd. So my plan is we have a special board meeting on the 11th to talk about the survey. I would like to add this part to it so we can get, if the board is satisfied with bids and picks out a bid, whether it's to repair or replace, that we can get that approved June 11th, because it's going to be a tight timeline to get that going this summer. But we want to make sure the bids are to replace, if we're going to get bids to replace the roof on the bus garage roof, and it's the same quality steel that was there. And I think what Carl Anderson had estimated earlier was a Cadillac one. But the one we've had has lasted a long time, so...
It's what served us well.
Served us well. Yeah. And so a Chevy will do for a roof. And that's what Mike's getting bids on, along with Carl. Mike's soliciting the bids from 6 local contractors. And there's other contractors that bid on it too. We've got the specs set for it. And Mike was instrumental in setting the specs, and Kraus Anderson reviewed them. Again, Kraus Anderson is not getting paid anything in this. What they're doing is gratis. They don't benefit in any way financially.
No.
No. They're always trying to keep us happy, right? Yeah, I know how that works. We all do. But, so we don't have anything for you yet today, but at June 11th, we should have bids in on this, and then we can compare what it costs to replace the roof versus repair the roof, and make a decision on June 11th.
Contrary to what's been inaccurately written, we're far from being done with this.
Right, those first figures are just budget figures to look at in an overall review. They weren't anything we had looked to act on.
Yeah, man, some of the somebody called me and said, I hear you're going to spend $200,000 right, on the roof. We're not. We are not, and we're keeping it local, right? We're bidding local and trying to save money and keep it in town, so not done.
That wraps up. We're on item K. We also added item L, executive session if needed. We'll move there too. Item K is recognition of visitors. Would anyone care to be recognized at this time?
Pat Ike, concerning the Light Up project, it's a worthwhile project. I would just urge you to contact legal counsel concerning this. There are some issues that you probably should be discussing with them.
All right. Thank you. Would you, care to elaborate on that at all, Pat? Like, what kinds of legal issues? You've piqued my curiosity.
We'll take it offline.
Pat, can I give you a call?
I can talk to some people. I don't know if I'm...
Okay,
we don't want to
take it offline.
Let's not put you in a tough spot.
Yeah.
We'll take it
Thanks for
offline.
bringing it to our attention. We'll move from there. That's a perfect way to do it. Thank you.
Hi, Mandy Burnick, community member, employee. I wasn't expecting to get up and speak, but I had some thoughts a few weeks ago, and now with the change in position with V and his new job, I just thought that it would be fitting to bring some of these ideas and suggest them to just kind of broaden some thoughts on kind of the high school and maybe some changes that we could have up here. I think that V has been doing 2 jobs over the past 7 years, and listening to the PCR talk, my idea would be to eliminate a director position and create something that would maybe be called like an athletic administrator. And this person would be the athletic director as well as run the PCR, so you'd eliminate that. And so you have the athletic director, you have your board, you have your commissioners. Then this athletic administrator could also be in charge of all the building use communication with the community, as well as here with the district itself and the grounds use. And I think you're eliminating a middle person position, and I would probably guess, knowing my dad was a coach and a teacher, and the majority of his time was spent coaching and scouting, that probably 95% of V's day dealt with athletics. And so I think that it would be, well, a lot of it. I think it would be worthwhile to just look at that. And then I also think it would be important to look at you call it a dean of students, assistant principal, whatever. I think that needs to be separated from the athletic director, especially with all of the changes that are going on, the RTI. We have the new working lunch that we're trying to work on. We're going to be doing with the RTI, the intervention, and the RTI committee at the high school has been working really hard. 7:15 in the morning, they're here, they're trying to figure things out. And we need And I have confidence, I know he's probably ADHD busybody, the guy is a go-getter, to be that big picture person, but we need then a couple other positions below him. So I've been in the district 12 years. I've on a lot of different committees in town, and I've coached different sports, and I analyze a lot. So I thought that this would be the opportunity to share some thoughts with you as a community member, as a Malone parent, as an employee, just to think about and bring that to you. So thank you.
Thank you. It is well timed. Thank you.
The mic is open.
My name is Lisa Gencor. I'm in Clifton. I have 3 kids in school. Thank you for your work today. It was a very difficult decision. I understand that. And I want to thank you and congratulate V. We're really thrilled. Congratulations. And we look forward to helping to make sure you succeed, because that's what we want to do. We want to see everyone succeed, including you as well. With that, I didn't even plan it, but Mandy mentioned that, and I thought, gosh, maybe, it would be great to get V's perspective on that, and as far as maybe an opportunity to make some changes as we're looking at PCR, because that's actually what I was going to come up for in talking today, was about PCR and the structure, and I was going to suggest to Mike, as I am a PCR board member, that maybe we can just glance over some of the survey data. I'm sure there's a lot of it, but incorporate some of that into, just get a view of that so that we don't dive too far into it, but at least when it comes to the structure, it might be helpful as we lay that out, and I'd be happy to assist with that. So,
Thanks for bringing that up.
I think it would be great to bring Dave in too.
Thank you. Thank you. Mic's open.
Jeff Ryan, I'm sorry. I've been teaching here at Prescott for 24 years. I've lived in the district for 23. I just want to say, watching the presentation from Malone Elementary, I'll tell you what, I'm very, consider myself very, very fortunate. I and my wife that my daughter, McKenna, attends Malone Elementary. It was just tremendous to see that, and I guess I just really like the progressive, proactive approach. It's something I think that certainly needs to be lauded. So I consider myself very fortunate to live in a district where my daughter attends a school like Malone. Thanks.
Mic's open. Wow. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
We are moving now to executive session. If there's something to move, not, we'll
All right, you got last call on candy.
I ate like 4.